Hey everybody, Danny Davis with the Austin American-Statesman. This is the Longhorn Confidential podcast. Every week during the football season, we like to bring on an expert for whoever Texas is playing. Since UTEP is on the schedule for Saturday afternoon, 3:15 over at DKR SEC Network if you're watching at home. Carter Yates, Dave Campbell's Texas football. We knew he was a guy we had to give a call to. If you're following on Twitter at Carter_Yates16, he is the pride of the University of Texas, pride of the Daily Texan, and still has a ridiculously great head of hair. But we'll talk about that at another day and time. Carter, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Danny. It's good to come on and talk the Longhorns and their opponent coming up this weekend.
Now, if you all don't know, which I don't know how you wouldn't, if you are living in Texas, obviously Dave Campbell's Texas football, that's the Bible in Texas. I think if you grew up in the state, you obviously know about the high school coverage, but they do a lot of good college work. Carter this year, if you picked up this year's copy, this guy, you may all recognize him. Um, he wrote the UTEP preview, which is on page 140 if you were reading at home. So, Carter, we'll start with a general question. This is the second year of the Scotty Walden era. 3-9 last year. They're 1-1 so far this season. As Scotty goes into his 15th game with the Miners, where are the Miners at? Where are they at in the Scotty Walden era?
So I think the positive signs of his tenure started showing up last year towards the end of the year when they went two out of their last three with wins against Kennesaw State and then New Mexico State. And then they really used that momentum into the offseason when they got Malachi Nelson, who I'm sure we're going to talk about in the transfer portal. He's the highest, like, former five-star recruit, highest rated recruit they've ever gotten. And so far through the first two games of this year, the team looks very much improved. 1-1 record right now. And last week, a 42-14 win over UT Martin. For Texas fans, that doesn't look like much. But for UTEP, that was a huge win because last year they lost to FCS Southern Utah in their home opener. And I think that kind of took the air out of the balloon, so to speak, of the first Scotty Walden year. So showed marked improvement from last year already. And I think UTEP has been waiting, and El Paso in general has been waiting for a team to believe in for a long time. And Scotty Walden has the energy and the persona that he believes this team can become a G5 giant, and he's building it towards that. And you're starting to see on the field his plan come to fruition.
You mentioned him, so let's just go right into it. Malachi Nelson, five-star recruit out of that 2023 class, same class as Arch. Arch was number one in that class. Malachi was number five of both five-star guys. It just so far has not worked out for Malachi. Started at USC, went to Boise State, now he's in UTEP, but a good start to his season. And do you think he's kind of finally found a home? Is El Paso the place where he's finally going to be able to blossom and show what he's capable of?
Yeah, I think that when you saw the class of 2022, Arch Manning number one, Malachi Nelson number five, we expected them to meet in college at some point, but it wasn't at Texas versus UTEP. And I think Malachi Nelson can thrive in Scotty Walden's pace and space scheme. They call themselves the Blue Blaze because they like to snap the ball every 12 seconds or less. A lot of the philosophy schematically is what TCU does with pace and space. It's kind of a Briles tree scheme from Kendall Briles, and then Mark Kalla, the offensive coordinator at UTEP, actually coached with Kendall Briles for like 7 years. I think that Malachi Nelson, it was interesting because when he came over in the spring, I went and did the magazine preview, and I expected Scotty Walden to put a smoke screen up and say, "Hey, this is a competition, right? Like no one's a starter." But it really seemed like Skylar Locklear, the incumbent, was going to win that job. Like reports out of El Paso were not that Malachi Nelson was running away with this competition. I think he improved greatly in the summer working with Jordan Palmer, UTEP alum and Carson Palmer's brother, a renowned quarterback trainer, and then just ran with the job and won it in fall camp. I think he elevates that offense to where they can reach their ceiling and do some things that Scotty Walden wants to do because last year, that 39 team, you oftentimes didn't even see what Scotty Walden's offense was supposed to look like. And that wasn't just because of the quarterback, that was a lot because the offensive line was getting bullied up front. So they all they could do was throw quick passes and it was a total jailbreak at all times. So I think yes, Malachi Nelson is you're starting to see what Scotty Walden's offense can do in its best form, but that's also because of the offensive linemen that they've portaled.
They have taken in a lot of portal additions since Scotty, got there, which is something sometimes you just have to do when you're a coach, taking over a program and at that level too. But this is still a school that's located in Texas, and us in Texas, we're pretty proud of our high school football. I'm kind of wondering how the Miners kind of attacked their high school recruiting, especially in this state. Are high school coaches picking up the phone when Scotty calls? Are they interested in what the Miners are selling? Do you think that they can start building the program through the high school ranks, or is this just going to be, something where they're hitting the portal really hard every offseason?
Well, they have hit the portal hard, but Scotty Walden also made clear to mention that they have signed 42 Texas high school football recruits in their first two cycles, which both of those classes ranked at top of Conference USA. And the 42 Texas high school football recruits was the most of any team in the nation. So Scotty Walden is very similar to Sark in the sense of like I know Texas doesn't portal a lot and UTEP is portaling a lot, but I think in Scotty Walden's like once he has this program humming, he is supplementing through the portal and building through the high school ranks. And you're starting to see that with running back Ashton Emery from Rockwall, who was a district MVP. And then I know he's gotten other, big time players that UTEP really wasn't in the mix for a lot of the time in El Paso, which that's also coming up at the same time as El Paso high school football is probably the best we've seen with guys like Jake Fetty at El Paso Del Valle and Ryan Estrada at El Paso El Dorado. So it's it's like two worlds merging right now where Scotty Walden really wants to hit the high school ranks hard and El Paso high school ranks have been the best they've been thus far in my time at Dave Campbell's for sure. So I think that is ultimately what Scotty Walden wants to do. And Danny, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes, like I've always said that college football coaches have a worse work-life balance than the president of the United States, right? Like it is a very difficult job, but I do think previous staffs at UTEP kind of bemoaned how hard it was to get people to come to El Paso. And that's why they were very heavy on transfers. But Scotty Walden has never used that as an excuse. And you can tell how excited he is to be at UTEP and El Paso. And I think you see people feeding off of that too. Like I was just scrolling Twitter X today, and Blake Hamilton from Katie Tompkins was posted a picture from his UTEP visit. It was like, this is what it looks like to be recruited, and it's him, his family, and the entire UTEP staff. So I think Walden has done an excellent job in recruiting there thus far.
Aside from Malachi Nelson, who is an offensive player on this UTEP team to keep an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, Kenny Odom, the wide receiver, is their alpha dog. He's the leader in the locker room. He's the leader of their offense, really, even with Malachi Nelson there. He is followed Walden from Austin P. He is their clutch receiver. So he had two catches in overtime against Kennesaw State last year, like a three touchdown game, I believe. He's picked up where he left off from last year, already got two touchdowns, over 200 yards receiving. So not a big guy, only about 5'10", but a big time deep threat. And then it'll be interesting to see if minor back Cam Thomas plays because he is kind of like the running back wide receiver hybrid. They call him a minor back in this offense, moves around the formation a lot, also big time kick returner, punt returner. But I don't believe he played last week against UT Martin. So I don't know if that was precautionary or if he's out versus this game, but that would be a big blow to their offense.
One thing I noticed when I was looking at their depth chart and their game notes is they seem to have 46 different names for 46 different positions or schemes. They're very creative out there in El Paso. On the other side of the ball, UTEP has a new defensive coordinator in Bobby Daly, but they have the same 3-3-5 scheme,
Yep.
the same sack numbers, a lot of the same talent. So who's a defensive name that we should know about on that side of the football?
Well, I got two for you, and both of them I think Sark mentioned in his press conference. First is Micah Davey, the linebacker. He has 22 tackles over those first two games. He had 311 at FCS McNeese State, so a transfer linebacker that they really hit on. And then Udoka Ezeani from Boise State has 5.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks in the first two games. I've been very impressed with the job that Bobby Daly has done so far because you mentioned him having to coach a different scheme than he coached at Montana State. That is a philosophy that Walden has of keeping the same scheme, even if you get a new defensive coordinator. And so far, it's working out really well because UTEP leads the nation with 23 tackles for loss and tied for second in the nation with 10 sacks, tied 10th in the nation to allowing 20% third down conversion rate. I expect those numbers to take a bit of a hit this week versus Texas, but this is a good challenge for the Longhorns, especially because that offensive line struggled last week. Bobby Daly's scheme like rotates guys pre-snap, and this will be a really good test for Texas.
Obviously, I'm not picking Texas to beat UTEP UTEP to beat Texas this weekend. I doubt you are either. But games like this are a good way for a team like UTEP to kind of set the plate and get ready for the rest of their season. And this is a UTEP team who had some success at the end of this season last year in Conference USA. Do they have a chance to actually contend for that title this year, or is this still kind of a year or two down the road that we expect them to be contending for conference titles?
Yeah, I'm still on a wait and see approach right now. I don't think it'll be this year just because that loss to Utah State, I believe it was 28-16. I mean, Utah State, I think they were 6-point dogs in that game. If they had played that game closer or won that game, I'd be more apt to say, hey, they might make some noise here, but I still think they're about a year away. I really think this year's about a building block for them before they get to the Mountain West Conference next year because this is their last year in Conference USA. They're about to go to the Mountain West, which actually is a lot better regionally for them because I even forget how far away El Paso is. But I don't know if their offensive line is strong enough yet to compete for a Conference USA championship because I was looking at some of the numbers too, and they lost center Brendan Smith to Mississippi State after spring ball, and he was their offensive line leader. Right now, they rank 98th in the nation in tackles for loss allowed and 104th in the nation in 2.5 sacks allowed per game. And Malachi Nelson, digging into some of his passing numbers in week one, he was 15 of 15 on passes inside of 5 yards, which shows me they are still throwing a lot very quickly because part of that is by design because like, hey, they use the pass game as an extension of the run game. And part of that is they don't trust their offensive line yet.
I think it's wild that we're about to have a Pac-12 and a Mountain West team in Texas, but that is life in college football in 2025.
Yeah. Well, believe me, us at Dave Campbell's, every time realignment comes out, we start to shake and shiver a little bit. Like, are we going to have to put a Pac-12 preview now in the magazine? And yes, we will next year.
Awesome. Well, Carter, we really appreciate the time. That's Carter Yates from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Be sure to check out all his work over at Dave Campbell's website. Obviously, pick up the magazine if you haven't yet, which what are you doing? It's you should pick that up in August if you're a true Texan. At Carter_Yates 16 on Twitter. We'll have Carter's coworker Mike Craven, old friend of the Austin American-Statesman, this podcast on next week to talk Sam Houston. So we're getting a lot of the DCTF boys on here. So hopefully you go tell Greg Tepper, give y'all a raise that you're all multimedia stars doing it all over there. But we appreciate the time and obviously go check out Carter's work and go razz him about his hair. But yeah, that's all we got here. We'll see y'all at DKR on Saturday.
Thanks, Danny.